Welcome to Food Friends, a podcast inspiring home cooks to try new dishes in the kitchen by sharing trusted recipes, tips, and friendship. Hi, I'm Sonia.
And I'm Carrie. We met in Los Angeles over 15 years ago as personal chefs and haven't stopped talking about food since. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Carrie.
Sonia, what was your best bite this week?
Carrie, it is cranberry bean season right now.
I love cranberry beans, mostly because you have instilled this love of cranberry beans in me. You've taught me when I find cranberry beans at the farmer's market what I can do with them.
I should say it's also shelling bean season.
Yes.
So if you can't find cranberry beans, there's other kinds of shelling beans. And shelling beans is referring to beans that you would typically dry. They're the kinds of beans that you have to take out of their pods and you have to dry or eat fresh. In this case, you're eating it fresh. You're not eating the pod, though. That's what distinguishes it from like a green bean or a Romano bean. So with shelling beans, cranberry bean typically is very popular, especially here in the Northwest. And it starts showing up in late summer and kind of is around in early fall. But I definitely feel scarcity around it. It's not here for long. And
right.
my favorite farmers of all time in the Northwest retired last year, which is just so sad, although very happy for them. They deserve their retirement. They're a couple, and they had the best cranberry beans I've ever had anywhere. But there's a new farm here in Portland called Happiness Farm. What a delightful name.
What a delight, yes.
Been growing cranberry beans. So I feel like the torch has been passed. You can also sometimes find them in the grocery store too this time of year. If you can't find fresh cranberry beans, you can find dried cranberry beans, and this style of recipe will work with a dried bean as well. I keep it really simple. I do have a recipe. You should definitely just use it as a guide and tweak it to your own liking. But what I do is I get onions chopped or shallot, some garlic. I saute that with some butter and oil. I like the combination of the two.
Okay.
Then I add like a pint of cherry tomatoes. Usually I add just a pint because that's what I have around this time of year. Then you add your shelled beans to that sauteed tomato and onion, and you add your liquid, which could be as simple as water, but I like to use some kind of stock.
Well, that was going to be my question is, are you cooking the beans separately from this? But no, you're going to cook the beans in this really flavorful base of onions, butter, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of garlic, and then these beautiful cherry tomatoes, which I imagine most people are getting them from your neighbors. You're finding them at the farmer's market. They're at the grocery. They're everywhere this time of year.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They kind of disintegrate as it all simmers. Mm-hmm. And I don't put too much broth. I do just enough broth that kind of it covers the beans so that as it reduces, it has more and more flavor. But if you have homemade broth, that's really good. Chicken broth, vegetable broth, whatever you like to use. I even sometimes use this little bit of better than bouillon, the vegetarian one or the chicken one would work here.
It gives it a little boost.
It gives it a little boost. I let that simmer till the beans are tender. When they're fresh, I find it's around 30 minutes. Sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less. You kind of have to start testing them after 25 minutes or so. And then at the very end, I ladle it into bowls. I like to serve it often over a little bit of orzo or some kind of small pasta, but you could also just have it on its own as a brothy bean with crusty bread. And then I always add basil, fresh basil, and a good grating of either Parmesan or Pecorino. And a drizzle of good olive oil is great too. It's actually quite a simple meal. It's something I regularly make on a weeknight this time of year, but it feels so restaurant-y somehow.
Yeah, and it's also hyper seasonal, right? It's just this beautiful thing that only happens this time of year. And it's a kind of recipe that you can carry with you through the fall. You can braise your beans in any kind of flavorful liquid, add some good Parmesan, add some great olive oil. I think this idea of adding a lot of fresh basil is also, I'm sure, so lovely.
I also put the basil stem into the broth as it simmers. I forgot to mention that, but thyme would work really well here. And just to call out a few other things that you can do with your fresh cranberry beans, if you don't want a brothy bean, you can absolutely just take it out of the shell and simmer it in water with a bay leaf and some salt until it gets tender. You don't have to make a complicated base like I just described. It can be so simple. And then you could use that in a marinated salad like the one that you shared on our Substack. That was that marinated white bean salad.
Yes.
A fresh shelling bean is such a great thing for a marinated, oily salad. It really absorbs those flavors. And it's a little lighter and more tender than a dried bean, which is why it's so fun to use.
Yeah, the Substack that you talked about, what does it mean to have really good extra virgin olive oil? A bean like that that's just cooked simply and then served with a little bit of salt and really good olive oil and maybe some greens. There's really not much more that you need.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really just a special, simple ingredient. I have one other best bite I just have to highlight. I won't go into too much detail of the recipe.
Ooh, two best bites.
I have two best bites. I have to bring this up. I feel like we become the Nicole Rucker fan club. So that's another reason I'm like, I can't believe I'm sharing another Nicole Rucker recipe. But I also feel like I would be denying everyone a really amazing recipe if I don't bring it up. I have now several times made the banana bread recipe from her cookbook.
But wait, which one?
Yeah,
which
exactly.
banana bread? Yeah,
so she has there's five. She has a whole chapter on banana breads. I made the first classic main banana recipe that's really similar to how I've always made banana breads. But I don't know what kind of sorcery this woman uses. This banana bread is outrageous. It is the most banana-y, the softest, the least driest, the most caramely in flavor.
Oh, wow.
It is transcendent. It has blown the minds of anyone I've given it to. It is very easy to make. It's no harder than any other banana bread recipe. My only twist on it is that she calls for sour cream, and I almost never have sour cream for whatever reason. So each time I've replaced it with plain Greek yogurt, and it's been fine.
Works fine.
Like it works fine. So you don't need sour cream.
Well, Sonia, I'll remind you that when we received her cookbook, it was actually my 9-year-old son, Mac, who was walking through my office, and he walked out carrying Nicole's book, which is this hot pink color. And he goes, "Hey, Mom." He goes, "Did you know that there's 5 banana bread recipes in here?" And I was like, "No, I didn't know because I haven't even read it yet. I had just unpacked it." Banana bread is kind of his kryptonite. He loves banana bread and he loves chocolate chips in his banana bread. So I've made that version several times and it is outrageous. It is by far the best banana bread recipe
I have
I've
not.
ever. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's more. There's another one that she puts like protein powder in for her.
I know. I can't do that one. I love that she has it, and I feel like it's going to speak to a lot of people, but I just can't bring myself to do it.
Listen, her recipes work, so I would trust her to test it one time at least and see. But...
No, I don't think it will taste bad. I just don't even have protein powder in my house.
I don't either.
And I don't want to go buy it to put it in a banana bread when the other recipes are so good. But I really do appreciate that she put that in there because I think it actually is very helpful for people. But again, we're not sponsored by Nicole Rucker. No. We have no affiliation. We don't even have any affiliation with the book.
But the hits just keep coming.
They really do. And I know, just one quick note, because a couple people have mentioned that the pie recipe, the water level wasn't quite right for them. And I really understand that that can be frustrating for people. And so I've made it now 8, 9, 10 times. I think you have too. Same. I've never had an issue. I have noticed though that the brand of butter I use creates a different level of hydration. So it still has worked out for me, but I would just say, I do think in baking, the brands of butter, the brands of flour, those things create different levels of hydration. So it may be something that she might update in the future to say which brands she uses.
I use a European style butter when I'm baking. In California, we have a dairy company called Strauss. And they're from dairy cows in California, and I always buy their butter. I think it's excellent. So that's what has always worked for me if you're in California. And if you're not, you can always get a European style, which I think just has more butter fat.
Yeah, it has more butter fat. And so when I've done European style butters instead of sort of generic American style butter, like whatever you get at Trader Joe's, their brand or any grocery store brand, I have found that it's almost too much water for my pie dough. And so it's interesting. People are saying it's too dry. I wonder if maybe a European style butter might help them. Sometimes people have to update their recipes because they don't know until it's out in the world.
Butter's not just butter.
Well, yeah, and you don't know until something's out in the world what's not where you try your best to recipe test and cross test. And sometimes things don't work for everyone the same. So anyway, just that little note for those of you who've chimed in about that. But Carrie, I'm dying to know what your best bite of the week is.
Well, Sonia, I'm excited to share my best bite because it feels a little bit like a throwback for me. So, my family and I went away for a weekend to Catalina Island. The people were so nice, the food was delicious, and one of the things that I noticed was a commonality in a couple of the restaurants that we were eating at was they were always talking about how they had local swordfish. My best bite this week was a piece of grilled swordfish with a pineapple and mango salsa with a little bit of mint in it, and then a cilantro rice.
This is kind of retro sounding.
It's very retro sounding, and I will say I've lived in Los Angeles for 21 years and never been to Catalina, and I have to say I am so smitten with Catalina. It was
Such a magical place. Yes, can you just understand what Catalina is?
Well, Catalina is this tiny little island off the coast of sort of South Los Angeles, San Pedro, Palos Verdes area. So I live in the mid city of Los Angeles. It took us about an hour to get to the port, and we took a little ferry over to the island. The island is owned by the Wrigley family of Chicago. So there's kind of like this Midwestern
So
connection.
interesting.
And they developed the island. But, when someone said to me, like, oh, it feels very European, I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. And it really did feel so European. All of the people who we met on the island who were working in the restaurants or working in the hotels, they all live on the island. They all live in this tiny place. So we went to a few restaurants and I kept noticing that grilled swordfish was on the menu. And they would say, it's really delicious this time of year. Grilled swordfish is something I used to make for one of my clients many, many years ago. And they asked me to make it all the time to the point where there's kind of like you shouldn't eat big fish like that so often.
It's like
because
high in mercury, right?
higher in mercury. But
What do you think is a good substitute for swordfish for people who don't want to eat it? Like halibut, maybe?
halibut, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. It's a very meaty fish.
It's a meaty
and
white fish and it sort of flakes but it
and
holds its shape when you grill it.
it holds its shape when you grill it, and the same I find with a halibut. So
Yeah.
I think, and I think when you're making this at home, I mean, this is such a perfect time of year to fire up the grill and put on like a big piece of fish. Is one of the tricks that I learned when I was a young personal chef is that if you put a thin coating of mayonnaise on the outside of your fish
Wow.
and put it on a hot grill, a hot clean grill, it will come off beautiful.
Great tip. And I think that would be true for a grill pan too if you didn't have a grill.
Exactly. And you really want to get it like screaming hot. And here's the thing for people who don't like mayonnaise, like your husband, Jonathan, like many people, my clients were super not into mayonnaise either. But what's great about it is it doesn't slide off like if you used olive oil or avocado oil or something like that. And it doesn't burn.
It's like putting
You
it on
don't
grilled
taste
cheese.
it.
Yeah.
You don't taste it at all. They had blackened this piece of fish a little bit, so there was a little bit of seasoning on it. It feels really retro, but some kind of fruit salsa, really any fruit you've got in season. I think a peach would be nice here, a nectarine, anything that's firm. They used mango and pineapple. There was a little bit of scallion and mint. Probably a little bit of lime in there too. All these fresh flavors with this really beautiful piece of fish. And then they served it with a cilantro rice. It felt like a green version of red Mexican rice, that has a tomato base in it. It really made me want to go learn how to cook cilantro rice. So I'm going to have to report back about that. But it was such a fresh, lovely lunch. And I ended up eating it a couple of times on the island.
Yeah, in my personal chef days, I made a lot of grilled fish with mango salsa, and it was kind of always some kind of white fish, whether it was swordfish or halibut or even other kinds of white fish work here, whatever you can get your hands on that you grill or do in a grill pan. And then the
Yeah.
salsa was kind of always the same. I always do like mango, red pepper, cubed really small, like a salsa, a little
Yes.
bit of jalapeno, like for a little bit of heat, red onion or scallion, cilantro if you want, and lime juice. And I think that combination is actually as old school-ish as it is, or as 2009 as it feels, is kind of also timeless. It's so refreshing. It's so good in a fish taco.
Oh, yeah. I'm really glad that you brought up adding a little bit of jalapeno or some kind of spicy pepper to it. That's actually something I almost never did when I was a personal chef, especially with this family. They had two little kids when I first
Yeah.
started cooking for them. So adding anything like that, especially when you're trying to get kids to eat fish. But I like the red pepper. I know that would add a beautiful color and a sweetness to it. But that jalapeno is nice in there too.
It
And
really
it's great in a
is.
fish taco.
Yeah, and a Fresno chili would be a good swap
Yes.
as well. I love a Fresno.
Yeah, I mean, this time of year too, any kind of red pepper, bell pepper, spicy pepper you're getting at the farmer's market. And then again, like I think even a plum would be good in this too if you had like a firmer plum. You don't want something that's going to kind of disintegrate.
I like that you reminded me of this dish. It's like something I haven't had in years and actually sounds perfect, especially as it's still not quite chilly. It's still pretty warm, or it's nice to have something that's sort of light.
Absolutely. Well, Sonia, this was really fun.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating.